Hello, I'm Eric Thronson,
And I'm Jessica Digiambattista.
and we will be discussing the recent LAO publication, the Analysis of the 2010-11 Transportation Budget. The governor's budget proposes $18 billion in expenditures for transportation programs in 2010-11. For some of these programs, we recommend that the legislature take various actions to increase accountability and oversight of the use of transportation funds, as well as to align funding levels with program needs. We will be discussing the funding request for the HighSpeed Rail Authority, as well as our review of Caltrans' Capital Outlay Support Program. But first, we will discuss the governor's budget proposal relating to public-private partnership payments.
The governor requests $3.5 billion in future federal transportation funds be appropriated to Caltrans. These funds would be used to pay private sector firms for costs related to an unspecified number of public-private partnership or P3 agreements. A review found that the governor's proposal has several significant problems. The proposal does not appear to be permissible under current law, which allows Caltrans to enter into P3 agreements, but requires such agreements to authorize tolls or user fees to pay for the project. Because Caltrans proposes to fund some of these agreements with federal funds rather than tolls or fees, it does not appear to be allowable. In addition, such agreements are not fully eligible for federal funding, as proposed, due to restrictions on the use of federal transportation dollars. Details regarding how the majority of funds would be spent are not available. Specifically, Caltrans is not able to explain which projects or activities would be funded with about $2.5 billion of the request. Caltrans has identified one project which could use about $1 billion of the requested appropriation. However, the information available suggests the state may not benefit from funding this project under a P3 approach. Lastly, the budget requests a blank check authority for the administration to augment the funding available to pay private sector firms under P3 agreements. Such augmentations would be allowed without further legislative review or approval. In light of these reasons, we recommend the legislature reject the request. We also recommend, in revising its budget request this spring, that the administration ensure that various factors related to this proposal are met, as we explain these factors in our report.
The California High-Speed Rail Authority is the state agency tasked with developing and constructing a high-speed train system. In addition to the $9 billion in state bond funds made available through Prop 1A of 2008, the authority received an award of $2.25 billion from the federal government in economic stimulus funds in January. The availability of these resources to the project has rapidly increased the development work performed by the authority and its contractors. Expenditures have gone from $14 million in 2006-07 to a request of $208 million for the budget year, with an additional $750 million requested for right-of-way acquisition and assessment. Our review of the authority's ability to measure progress in the current year, as well as justify its request for next year, has led us to make a number of recommendations. First, in order to provide more accountability, we recommend the adoption of legislation requiring the authority to submit an annual report, tracking the project's progress and identifying 1. The expected tasks and deliverables in the coming year, and 2. Any potential challenges and issues the project encounters. In this way, the legislature will be able to track progress as well as better assess the authority's budget request in the subsequent year. Second, we recommend a number of actions relating to the authority's 2010-11 budget request. To begin, based on conversations with the authority in which they describe their updated needs, we recommend reducing the funding for right-of-way acquisition from $750 to $250 million. Also, we withhold recommendation on the $203 million request for contract services, pending receipt of information justifying the requested amounts. The original budget requests contain little information on the work to be accomplished over the budget year, or how that work fits into the total development of the system. Finally, while acknowledging the authority's significant need for more staff, we withhold recommendation on the request for 27 additional positions, until the authority is able to support the request with a strategy that outlines how to meet the short and long-term needs of the organization.
Part of the LAO's mission is to evaluate in depth the budget and performance of state programs. We perform such evaluations on various programs in different departments on a recurring basis. Our analysis of the 10-11 transportation budget contains the findings and recommendations from one such review of Caltrans' Capital Outlay Support, or COS program. The COS program provides the support needed to deliver highway capital projects. Work conducted in the program includes completing environmental reviews, designing and engineering projects, acquiring rights-of-way, and managing and overseeing construction activities performed by private contractors. The 10-11 budget requests about $2 billion for the program for roughly 12,000 full-time equivalent positions, which is a combination of mainly state staff and some contract resources. Our review focuses on the direct project work performed by the program, accounting for roughly 10,000 of these full-time equivalents. Our review found that Caltrans provides insufficient information to justify recent funding and staffing levels requested for the program. In light of this problem, we evaluated funding and staffing levels over multiple years and using several different methods in order to build a comprehensive analysis. First, we compared Caltrans to similar agencies that manage capital outlay projects and found that Caltrans has higher costs for project support due, at least in part, to higher staffing levels. Next, we compared staffing levels in Caltrans regions to the size of each region's capital program and compared regions to one another. This comparison showed that staffing levels are unrelated to the size of each region's capital program, and that some regions have very high staffing levels, even though their capital program is relatively small. We also found that staffing by function, such as for design engineering, does not seem to match the level of workload planned on projects. The data indicate that at least some regions have more COS staff than is warranted. Additionally, Caltrans was unable to explain why COS staffing levels in some regions are so much higher than in others. We also evaluated the impact of the executive branch furloughs on the program's output and found that there has been no quantifiable reduction in output, even though the program's staff resources in the current year have been reduced by roughly 15%. Next, we evaluated the support costs on a sample of recently completed projects. Support costs for the sample projects were unreasonably high, and the department was not able to explain why this was the case. Lastly, we found that the COS program has essentially no cost control measures in place, and that program managers do not learn about overspending on project support costs until after it has already happened. The cumulative evidence from our review shows that the program is over-budgeted and lacks strong management. We recommend several actions to correct these issues. First, we recommend that the legislature require additional information to justify the COS program's budget on an ongoing basis. Information, such as a summary of the work the program needs to perform, should be provided. We also recommend that the legislature direct Caltrans to report on the steps it's taking to control its COS costs. Third, we recommend that the legislature request an audit of the program's time charging practices. And lastly, our analysis indicates that the department may be over-budgeted for COS work by as much as 15%. Caltrans is unable to provide workload justification for its 10-11 budget request. We recommend that the legislature reduce the program's budget by 15%, or roughly 1,500 full-time equivalent positions, amounting to about $200 million annually. We acknowledge that our recommendation would require Caltrans to track, compile, and report a large amount of data. However, based on the findings of our analysis, we've concluded that this information is critical for the sound management of the $2 billion COS program and for proper legislative oversight of Caltrans' efforts in this regard. Thank you for watching our webcast summary of our publication, The Analysis of the 2010-11 Transportation Budget. Please see the full report online for more details, or feel free to call our office. Thank you.